Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Becca. It's always fun. I get suckered into these. No, just kidding. It should be a fun conversation. I think Bernadette, Lauren, you and I, we all have had some good conversations. Overall, the topic is again just making sure that we're kind of addressing any questions along the way, and we can even just kind of kick it off and jump into the first question to just get started. So, for the first question, I was wondering how has recognition positively impacted your business, culture, and people? And if you have any examples, we'd love to hear it.
I'll go first. Recognition has significantly impacted our company culture. Actually, right around the time we rolled out Bucket List, we had just gone through an acquisition. So we had two companies, Misfits Market and Imperfect Foods, coming to be one. And during that time, as you could imagine, we kind of were at a loss for culture. We were merging two cultures into one, and having Bucket List as the bridge to gap those cultures and kind of identify a culture together was an incredible benefit. It really just opened up the doors for us all to say, hey, no matter what side we came from, we're all one team. We're all here for the same mission, for the same purpose. And it was a really great way to just highlight and celebrate all of the little wins and all of our individual contributors.
Awesome. Yeah, the whole transition from, one company into another or merging into one or being acquired or acquiring definitely can have those seismic shifts on employee perception, thoughts, and ideas. And having something that allows recognition to continue to go through really allows that people know that they've been heard, they've been seen, and even just kind of helps set the tone of what this new company could even look like as well. Love it. I've been on a few sides, on both sides, in a frontline role myself in my past life. So I would have loved to have some sort of communication when that happened. Lauren, thoughts, questions, comments, ideas?
Yeah, so at Amwell, I think culture is something very important to us. I think that's a big reason of why employees stay with us. We hear it all the time in HR that employees really love the culture of working here. So, 2.5 years ago, we were tasked with implementing a reward and recognition system or program, and we ultimately landed with Bucket List, which has been great. But again, kind of going along the lines of like sticking to our culture, employees had been asking for a reward and recognition program. And so, that's something that we take very seriously is when employees are, recommending things, we, through engagement surveys, et cetera, we really listen to them and really show tangible results. And just this program was just one of those tangible results that we were able to implement. And it has been very successful so far.
Love it. I think that's always also the power of like engagement kind of surveys, making sure that they're, fairly often and they kind of address anything that has come up and showcasing, your next steps and your next activities as well.
Mhm.
So that's awesome to hear that you're listening to your frontline staff because sometimes there could be that disconnect of what you believe is happening and what the reality is as well. Love it. Let's move on to the second question because we have a bunch of them and we want to make sure that we're covering some of the community questions that came in as well and will come in. But the next question is really more specifically for the frontline. What challenges do your frontline teams face in recognition programs and how can we overcome them? I'll let either of you to jump in on this one. I think I picked on Bernadette the first time.
So I think I can go first here on this one. So one of the challenges that we see, so again, we have Bucket List, which has been fantastic. And one of the pieces of feedback that we've received before, it's not so positive, but is that it can become sort of a popularity contest and the same people get recognized all the time. This can be true with any type of program that you have implemented at your companies. But something that we're trying to do to overcome this is really push out reminders about our programs, how to utilize them. We're really trying to get leadership on board with this and trying to get them to really use their bucket list points, give out the recognitions, say thank you. It doesn't even have to come with a monetary value. So really just trying to get into a better culture of recognizing employees, and again, not always in a monetary way, because as we all kind of go through ebbs and flows of budgets going up and down, that can be a challenge as well. But I just think, trying to implement different programs so that more employees can be recognized and not the same people for the same reasons all the time, that's, something that we have to kind of overcome.
Love it. Bernadette, your team's very creative when it comes to recognitions and working within a budget. So I'd love to hear your thoughts as well.
Yeah, so definitely budget for sure. That's always, like you were saying, Lauren, ebbs and flows. That's always a challenge. So a way around this, we were able to just get really creative. Actually, when we first rolled out Bucket List as a whole, we weren't at the point of being able to give out any sort of monetary value. And what was really neat was that we just really leaned in heavily to that peer-to-peer recognition. Again, trying to steer away from that popularity contest. The same people get the recognition. We really wanted to build a culture where recognition doesn't have to come from the top down. It can come from your peers. It can come from like lower upward, and just opening up the doors to this peer-to-peer recognition. There isn't even a monetary value. It's really just to show your appreciation for your coworkers, your team members, your employees. That's really how we started this. And I feel as though we really got to work through that challenge around budget. And then we got creative with it too. We really focused on peer-to-peer recognition. So each month there's a leaderboard. If you have Bucket List, you know this. If you don't, just so you know, there is this leaderboard that it can track the top givers, the top receivers. And so we did a monthly challenge before we had actual monetary value to give out of our top givers, because we really wanted to celebrate the individuals that were giving recognition, not necessarily, yes, those receiving the recognition deserved it, but they already got their praise via being given recognition. So we wanted to celebrate those who were giving out that recognition. And then we would do like a fun prize. They would win some sort of an award, whether it was a swag item or something along those lines, just to celebrate the culture of giving and celebrating one another.
I love that idea too. It's something that we always try to strive towards as well when we're having our conversations, and as we learn more and more about recognitions, because everybody learns what's working. Humans are all different, and especially by company as well, and even team by team of how you want to recognize. So I always love to encourage, getting manager participation. What awards would you love to give out? Not really talk about those kind of like what points go along with it or what's that monetary component. It's more about that, making sure the recognitions are there, making sure that they're real time and being thoughtful, getting the buy-in from managers and SLT. But again, like you said, Bernadette, focusing on the giving side of things. I really think that starts to shape, the perception of the program and what you're trying to achieve. And then points become that secondary type of thing. One other thing that I've seen in kind of the frontline and in healthcare is kind of adopting any awards that you've been using previously. So like the Daisy Awards when it comes to healthcare, safety awards when it comes to plant manufacturing, that either just kind of like brings in other programs to your recognition system, but also allows you to maybe even bring in some other budgets. So I work with a manufacturing company in Eastern Canada. That's what they do. They have all their plants have some KPIs and specifics for safety. As soon as you hit that, it unlocks a bonus. And they transition that into the platform so people can kind of pick out their reward that they see fit. I was just talking to a hospital yesterday, and they're kind of wondering how they want to kind of mix up their traditional like Amazon gift card for the end of the year celebrations, and how they want to kind of make that a little bit more dynamic and more personal as well. So yeah, definitely, definitely get to be creative when it comes to Frontline. And then, yeah, the budgets are that secondary type of part of that system as well. Love it.
Sean, I got one more other thing to
Yeah.
add that just sparked my my thought process. So prior to having our recognition tool, we did have quarterly value award winners that are tied to our Amwell's mission and culture. and core values. And so once we implemented bucket list, we ended up kind of migrating that process into our system. So we have sort of that one-stop shop for all recognition, with the hopes that this platform, this system, was the one place that everyone should just go to give out recognition. You know, whether it's just a quick thank you, or if it was a project completion, you know, giving out with or without points in the system. So again, kind of just having it be that one-stop shop, but also really having employees bring ideas to us. We are actually always listening and always wanting to hear, you know, different ideas. And so within bucket list, you know, for everyone else that doesn't have bucket list yet, there are badges that you can create in there, and you can get so customizable with those. You can really create them for anything. And something we're doing is asking employees, what types of badges would you use? You know, what types of things? Something came up on our DEIMB committee recently where they said it would be great if we had a badge for, you know, it being able to recognize employees that have really emulated the DEIMB initiatives or participated in different, you know, DEIMB groups. And so again, we're just constantly listening and trying to be creative and create more, right? That's the beauty of bucket list. You can really have many badges.
I couldn't agree with you more. And that goes hand in hand too with that. Everybody, the same people, the popularity contest thing, the same people are getting recognized. The bucket list does give you that flexibility to kind of make any type of award. So it really can, you can award somebody who works behind a computer. You can highlight somebody who works in the warehouse, highlight a driver. You can really make it customizable. Love how you brought up, you can relate your core values. We have like our core values associated with bucket list. And also it's just super fun too, because we've been able to get so creative. Misfits Market is a full online grocery store, for those of you who do not know. And we're very punny. We like our puns, especially our food puns. So we've really been able to implement that in our bucket list platform and make it feel like our own, which I feel like has made it feel, people feel that much more connected to it. For example, our platform is called Celebrations. So it goes with that food pun. And then the points that we give out, we don't call them points. We were able to rebrand them as praisins. So it's been really fun. And all of our awards, we have some fun puns associated with them. We also do different holiday awards, or same for different DEI initiatives that we may have. We're constantly getting in there, getting flexible, changing it up, asking for employee feedback. So that's a really great way to kind of make it feel more like a community and everybody feel connected.
And I love that. I think like every company has their own personality. I think there's the business voice of when you need to be a proper business and make sure you're, you know, black and white in your communication. But when it comes to recognition, I always love to see the company persona come out and have those fun little moments and try to make it a little bit more personable. You know, your employees are working with you and they love your company most of the time, but at the same time, you know, it really kind of hits well. And yeah, Bernadette, as soon as I saw praisins as your points, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a fun program to work with, because it was just super unique. I've got a few companies that even use like emojis for their points. So I have a restaurant that has like pizza and beer as their point emojis, just to kind of fit in with what they're doing. That group, like so many great custom rewards, you know, have the manager do the dishes for you instead of you, and work their shifts and steal their cigarettes, and all bunch of like random things that really could only fit in a late night pub type of atmosphere, which is awesome.
So
Love
much fun.
So we all have, yeah, we've got a bunch of ideas that we can always bring to the table for sure. I've done the classic moderator thing of I forgot which question I really asked. So I'm just going to jump into a different one, and hopefully it's not the same one, because I feel like we can address this. Rookie move. Okay, so would love to hear what challenges for the Frontline team, wow, and also reading is the other challenge. So what challenge do Frontline teams face in recognition programs? How can these overcome? And I really want to kind of focus on your Frontline teams might not always be in front of a computer, or they're kind of, you know, speaking with customers all day, every day. how do you get the program in front of them and make sure that it's a successful one as well?
So, Sean, being completely transparent and honest here, this is still something that we are working to build out on our end. We kind of got it really down pat. Our team, our remote workforce is really engaged, really like interactive with Bucket List. They have a good handle on it. And it is our frontline teams, our team members that work in our warehouses, our drivers that we're really working on kind of pushing Bucket List out to them a little bit more. Now that I feel like, because we've had Bucket List, I feel as though like a year and a half now, we've gotten a really good hold on it. We've rolled it out in phases. We rolled it out with no monetary value, then we rolled out with monetary value. It's been a really fun building block for us. And now we're really ready to show the benefits. Now that we see the benefits, really be able to sell those benefits to our frontline workers. And what's really great about Bucket List too is the adaptability to a mobile device. You're able to actually download an app that really feels like a social media channel. It's as if you're scrolling through on Instagram or Facebook, something like that, where you can like people's comments, like the different shout outs that people give. You can see people's names and profile. It really has just a very, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Just relatable, easy platform to use that I feel as though across the board is very easy for anybody to use. I also love the way you're able to customize it. Like I know we personally have a lot of individuals who are Spanish speaking, and they're able to turn their Bucket List app to be have the Spanish filter on it, so they would be able to engage and understand that way as well. So I feel like that's a really great way to kind of reach out to those teams, meet them kind of from a distance. You don't have to be behind a computer to be able to engage virtually and do this type of recognition. It's just a matter of educating them, getting them excited about it, showing them the benefits, showing them, you know, you can redeem these presents and go to our awesome swag store and get yourself like a really cool, whatever it is, shirt, bag, mug, whatever. So very excited for that next step. So that definitely is still a challenge for us, but I have all the confidence in the world that we're going to get to that next level, and I'm very excited.
Yeah, I can't wait. Can't wait. Lauren, how have you been tackling this subject?
So what I was thinking about with this question was that we are in 5 different countries. So we're international. We are 100% remote. So, you know, accessing computers is pretty easy for us, right? So we can certainly go on to the platform and recognize employees relatively easily. Most of us work at our computers. But something nice about Bucket List is that it also has an app. And so it just makes it quick and easy for, you know, employee recognition kind of on the spot. You know, one of the things that we try to promote is being timely with recognition, right? And so being able to grab your phone and sort of just, you know, when you're thinking of it, be able to just do that really quickly. That's super helpful. But also, you know, having specific redeemable items for different countries makes it helpful as well, and kind of overcomes that international challenge. I know a lot of times if we're trying to ship things internationally, the shipping costs are just crazy. But having Bucket Lists where we can redeem our points for gift cards, they're just e-gift cards in the different countries that we're in is super helpful. So not only are you getting recognized by your colleagues across in a different country, but once you get enough points, you can also redeem it for your local currency gift card. Or we also have this enabled in Bucket List where they can redeem it for specific, you know, events or, you know, sports games that are in your local area. So it's really tailored towards our individuals and where they're located, really, which is great.
Definitely. The one thing when I joined Bucket List, the one thing that really stuck out to me was kind of trying to figure out what the rewards would look like for those individuals, and not just kind of, you know, go with the catalog of items and you can choose one of those items at any specific year. My famous story was I was working with telecom for about 15 years, well, 14 and a half, and I was very close to the 15-year mark. And the only thing I could choose from that had some value was a KitchenAid stand mixer. And I don't cook. I'll set off the fire alarms, but I would have taken that just because like that's the thing that had the most value. But yeah, having the quick wins, really figuring out what's going to work for each team as well, really kind of helps with the buy-in process. But like you said, Lauren, just even kind of down to like geographic type of interest as well. Like one team might love an idea in Europe, but the North American team might think it's a crazy idea. The Asia Pacific team would love one idea and the other teams might not. So I think it really is that kind of finding what fits and then just making sure that the program itself is visible. So, Bernadette will probably start talking about QR codes and digital signage for the team, trying to get the recognitions in place. But also when it comes to the manufacturing side is, it is a bit like a virtual-ish type platform, but also making sure that it's in the real life and real world. So kind of like signage, in your meetings, talk about some recognitions, opening up the floor to kind of double down on recognitions. Really kind of just brings it all together. You're not going to get everybody in on the platform. You're going to see other people kind of participate in different ways. And I was talking about this with Becca yesterday. Every time I work with kind of a manufacturing company, I visualize my brother. He's 40 years old. He's been in heavy duty maintenance mechanic mode, working out at like mine sites all day, every day. Now that we're starting to see him kind of like transition into like a leadership person, how he has to adapt to kind of like recognizing people is changing. And you can actually see him start to go through the thought process of like, okay, how do I recognize like a gray-haired guy who's been there for like 50 years? And how do I recognize somebody who's there on their first week of the job? So definitely not a one-size-fits-all type of solution, but trying to figure out how to kind of get to that person in a way that they want to kind of get recognized is the biggest hurdle we usually see. Love it. Yeah, those gray haired. My brother's a gray haired, even though he's not gray haired yet. He's a old soul, I think they call it. Yeah. Love it. I was thinking we'll jump into one of the community questions because we had a few come in. Let's go with how can we effectively recognize the small achievements? How can we effectively recognize the small achievements of employees during hectic periods? So no matter if you're frontline or in the office, we're all going to have hectic periods. Would love to hear both of your thoughts on kind of breaking down that barrier.
I feel like I'm going to sound like a broken record a little bit when I talk about this peer-to-peer recognition, but I really feel like that's where it all begins. I really feel like whether it's you're super busy, you're going through a lot, you're going through a lot of change, no matter what. Like Sean, you said this right when we got on too. Like sometimes if you get recognized, it can turn your bad day into a good day. I feel like there's never a bad time to recognize somebody. There's never a bad time to give someone a shout out, give someone a pat on the back, let them know that you see them, you hear them, you appreciate them. Any small little recognition goes a really, really long way. And again, you don't have to wait for it to come from your manager or the COO or anything like that. It can really come just from your peers. So again, going back to the way I work too, it makes me feel good to give recognition to somebody. So again, if I'm even having a hectic day or a rough day, it's really nice to kind of take that step back and just think about what is something positive that's going on right now. And I might be like, oh, my team member Sarah she's been such a great support system to me. Let me just let her know like that I really appreciate having her by my side all the time. And that makes me feel good. It reminds me of something positive. And then in turn, it makes her feel good. I hope so too. So that's my answer to that question.
Love it.
It's a great answer, Bernadette. I think a couple of things come to mind. I think when you're getting appreciation and recognition, it's contagious. And so I feel like when you're recognized, it sort of prompts you to recognize others. And so one of the things we do love about Bucket List is that it is, there's a feed there. So you can go on and you can see the recognitions that are being given out across the company. We've also implemented linking it to our intranet page. So, anyone that's going on to the website for something, whether they need to look up something about benefits, or if they just, you know, need a document that's posted there, they go onto the homepage and there's a feed that shows the most recent 5 recognitions. And again, just prompting employees and, you know, again, just to get in there and recognize others. The second thing I was thinking is that earlier today, and one of the guest speakers, Allison Grenier, was talking about recognition versus appreciation. And, you know, I think what we have to remember is that you don't have to always recognize for the big accomplishments, for the big milestones. While that's really great, oftentimes we're being measured on those anyway for, you know, whether it's a corporate bonus, whether it's a, you know, a sales incentive plan, our KPIs, right? If we have those. So I think remembering that small wins are important too, and that we should really make sure that we're recognizing each other for small things, whether it's professional or personal. You know, if someone might have received a certification and I know that, and it's one of my peers, you know, I can go in and recognize them and say that great job, like well done. If, you know, we actually, one other example, just in the spirit of sharing ideas, our team, our total rewards team, we get together every couple of weeks and do like a coffee chat because we're remote, and this sort of replaces the water cooler meetup and chit chat that you miss out on when you're remote. And so we do this every few weeks, and we get together and we do some sort of fun, either icebreaker or game, or, you know, a learning opportunity, just something fun. And again, once we go through those, that's a great opportunity to recognize each other. Whether it's a trivia game that somebody won and we're giving a recognition for the winners, or if it's just, thank you for participating today. Thank you for sharing your ideas and your thoughts. Really appreciate it. You know, it just goes a long way. And we're lucky that we have Bucket List, the platform, to go in and be able to send those. But even if you don't have a platform, just an email, right? I mean, we can't forget to just saying thank you and just taking the time to send an email, which is super quick. Even if we don't have a lot of time, if we're super busy, if we're in crunch time, you can still go in and send an email to someone, or even a Teams message. So, you know, we have the time.
It's there, yeah, it's there. It's snuck away in corners of your day for sure. And I think, yeah, I think both of you had great points. Is just making sure that it's easy for people to know when they get recognized. So if it's with our platform, yeah, maybe you have Slack or Teams or the app on your phone, or like you were saying, is tie that activity feed into any intranet sites. It could be, you know, I was working with a restaurant group that had post-it notes, and then they just slap post-it notes on like a door, and it's just like the quick little thank yous. So no matter if you're like with us, or with somebody else that does a virtual platform, or even just kind of like doing an ad hoc one in the real physical world, yeah, those quick little thank yous really brighten your day. But I think it was Lauren who said that kind of like causes that chain effect, and you know, one recognition turns into another recognition, and then you open up more visibility. And people sometimes hold off on recognitions because they don't think it's meaningful enough, or they don't know how to word it. And from an employee level, when they start to see those recognitions, awesome. From a manager level, obviously, yeah, we want to get people in there doing the quick thank yous. But yeah, it's great. And then, yeah, again, making sure that it's in the physical, like real world when you can, always doubles down on it as well. Love it. I saw in the
And
chat.
even just to piggyback off of what you were saying right there, it can just be, I see on our feed all the time sometimes, just want to let you know you're awesome. It can just be something simple like that. It doesn't have to be like an exact scenario or situation, or you have to have a example to share. It literally can be something just as quick as that. Just want to let you know I'm thinking about you. You're awesome. Something like that. I do have to go grab my charger though. I'm so sorry. I forgot to plug in my laptop. I will be right back.
Oh, good. Yeah, and I think that's one of those powerful things, is opening it up. Don't have it be like the recognition police of like having a structure of what your recognitions should look like. Encourage the open ones. If there's ones that come out that might be like a little bit in the gray area or not enough, that's a great opportunity to just kind of say, hey, love the enthusiasm. Could you elaborate more, just so that the person knows, you know, what they're being recognized for. It's always great on that aspect. Nice. I was just taking a look at the chat. I love to see Taco with the emoji. I think I know exactly what company that is that's using that. And then, yeah, oh, hey, there you go, Bernadette, you're back. Love it.
One other thing, Sean, too, just to add, I think just making it, again, being authentic and just making it personalized, it really goes a long way. One of the things I think our whole company loves about Bucket List is that you can put in the memes, right? The pictures with the words over it. And some of them are so funny and some of them are animated. And I mean, you go through our feed and it's all of those. And I think people really enjoy picking those out for their peers, right? Because that's another way of just engaging employees, right? They're with each other, they know each other, and they're, if they love The Office, the show The Office, and then there's a little meme about The Office about like, great job, like air high five, whatever it is, they can put that on there, and it just goes a long way to just, feeling appreciated and just being engaged when you see something like that come through that's personalized to you. That's just another fantastic feature of Bucket List.
Love it. We might have to hire you as a salesperson. No, just kidding. Um, no, I think it's a really great point. As a customer success manager, I work with a bunch of companies over my day, and always going into the platforms and seeing what the gifts are, you get a sense of like what the company is as well. Like there's a hidden like code of communication in a GIF where you get to see, oh, this is like a finance team, but they're really into My Little Pony. That's all right, perfect, awesome. But yeah, it's like those little quirks and the little features of an organization like land well, and it really starts to make it somewhere that carves out a little bit of, it makes people carve out a little bit of the time thinking about recognitions. One other thing that came to mind before we jump into the next topic is it's always fun to work with a company that has personal email addresses as like the sign on, and how funny it is to see people not have an email address for a corporate program until they start to see the effects of the recognition system. And then all of a sudden they do have an email address because they want to be participating in the program. So Bernadette, I feel like that's kind of like where we're at in some cases as well, but a lot of those like manufacturing, even construction. I think I saw James, he's in the construction side in the chat, and yeah, trying to get people to share an email address can be that trouble sometimes, but then the success comes afterwards. Love it. So I think the next question, which will also tie into one of the Q&As that just came in, was kind of long-term effects. Both of you have been with us for a year, 2 years, a little bit more, but would love to learn more about how can you create a sustainable recognition program that stays engaging without feeling repetitive?
I feel like I may have touched on this a little bit already, but it's really all about just constantly getting in there, changing things up, adding like seasonal awards, monthly awards, little things like that. You can really kind of get as engaged and as creative with this platform as possible. Even we like to do little challenges on the side. Like I said before, we had those monetary values. We had our leaderboard challenge that was really successful. So randomly, we may create an award. For example, we had a back to school award that we did, just like a fun little, and we in the season of it being back to school, it's like share this award with someone who is a teacher in your work life, somebody that kind of you value, you admire, kind of thing. And anybody who gave that award out, we then you're able to run a report and able to throw their names on a wheel, and kind of, I always do like the virtual wheels and run a raffle that way. It's just as a little extra thank you, a little extra motivation to get people into the platform and to have a little bit of fun. That's just one small example. But there's all sorts of ways to customize it, to get creative. I liked how Lauren said before too, to make sure you're leaning on your team members, to make sure you're asking them, what do they want to see? What would excite them, get them kind of engaged and wanting to get in there a little bit too. So it's just constantly making sure recognition and your platform is kind of on the forefront of your brain, and just always thinking of ways we can improve it. We can have a little bit of fun with it, or just fun little reminders like, don't forget Bucket List is here. Just ever so often, just sending out communication of what Bucket List is, why we have it, what the benefits of it are, just constantly being transparent and sharing as much information as you can, but most importantly, having fun with it, definitely.
Yeah, those are some great ideas. I think just to add on to that, you know, keeping it relevant. I mean, we've had, so having a system is really cool because you can do some metrics. And so I'm on the compensation side and I love numbers and I love doing analysis. And so that's something that's really cool is you can run reports and see what, what's happening in there. One of the things that we were looking at is that, so we've had Bucket List for 2.5 years. We have just under 1,000 employees. And since the inception of the program, we've had over 71,000 messages of recognition, which is just, a thank you, a note, a badge with or without a badge, with or without points. That is just amazing when you can really see the numbers. It's incredible. And so one of the other things we get asked for a lot, and I'm going to give a little, in the spirit of recognition, I'm going to give a shout out to my colleague Chia, who is maybe on this call. She gets asked all the time for report requests by the different departments. And so just like being able to say yes to those things and just it enables them to take the data and do more with it, right? They can take it and do special recognition events for their own departments. They can do their top 5 receivers of awards, their top 5, whoever gave out the most awards. And they can really tailor it to their different departments. And I think that's been great. Again, just kind of making sure that we're recognizing employees in various different avenues. That also on our quarterly all hands calls, making sure that we're spending some time recognizing employees in that capacity, right, across the entire company, giving a couple shout outs. I think that just goes a long way, right? The other idea I was thinking of for this one is just keeping it fresh. Like I mentioned before, we're sort of going through a manager training in a few weeks and just reminding leaders how they can take this program and really just get recognition to be in the forefront of our thoughts. Just a thank you just goes a long way. It doesn't have to be formal, but as long as we're doing it, and obviously we have Bucket List as a platform to do that, but really just the importance of why recognizing employees is so important. I mean, we've seen all the statistics. Employees are just more likely to stay with a company if they feel like they're being recognized. Just kind of sharing that energy and just getting people excited about recognizing employees, I think is just so important.
Yeah, I think both of you raised some great points, and throughout the call, it really is like us kind of talking about Bucket List in a way that it's a tool that you use, but both of you are bringing in kind of like examples of what your plans are, what your program looks like. We might be that little tool that you get to use to see, what's happening and giving that ability to open it up. But, I work with Bernadette closely. My colleague Marlisa works with Lauren closely. And our conversations are always more about what does your program look like? How do you want to achieve success? Even in our conversations, we start to break down, maybe you do have, in the case of the anonymous attendees question, 80-85% engagement. What are those other metrics? Are the recognition numbers something that you want to start to look at, achieve more recognitions? Is there awards that you want to kind of focus on and achieve successes? So engagement is one of those type of metrics. But at the end of the day, it's like, is it useful? Is it positively impacting your employees' day-to-day functionality? Is your manager team, effectively using it? And we can kind of dive into a bunch of questions. But I really think, yeah, it's really your program. We're helping you design it, in some cases, giving you some best practices, ideas. But then at the end of the day, it's like, how is it resonating? And then getting back to the tool side of things, yeah, just changing it up, making sure that the awards are there. It's simple as like changing up your company logo to have a seasonal fit. We'll steal the idea from Google where every day kind of is a new image for their logo. The human psychology there is like, oh, something's changed, something's new. Let me check that out. And it really is just those little nudges in the right direction. And then for me, the other one that comes to mind is I've got an energy company or software energy company on the East Coast that just changes up all their custom rewards. So if it's like time off, make sure it's called like summer recharge and talk about the summer. When it's fall, kind of like, get outdoors and enjoy like the sights and sounds, stuff like that. So small little things definitely go a long way. Love it.
Yeah, and it really goes back to that like educational piece, that buy-in piece, and um, as you had mentioned too, just making sure our managers and our team members see the value in it. And I feel like that's kind of the stepping stone. So again, we really kind of took the way we rolled out at Misfits Market slower. But now we've had such great success with it from overall our remote staff, some of our operations staff as well, and our managers on the ops end too really have gotten their buy-in. So now it's really about connecting the dots there. So now it's about really, now that they see the benefits in it, they've been getting recognition from their managers. They've been able to give recognitions to their peers. Now we're at that stage where we're really going to lean into our management in our warehouses for our drivers to really help share this information with that team, because once people learn the benefits, get the buy-in, start seeing, one, how easy the platform is to use, and two, just how engaging and fun it can be, that's really when you see great change and adjustments in culture. So I'm really excited about those next steps and using all of these pieces, getting creative, constantly making sure it's new and it's not stagnant. That's kind of how you keep everybody kind of in there and wanting more and wanting to have fun with it.
Yeah, there's that balance of like overthinking things and like always changing things for the change sake. But I think, yeah, the common theme that I've heard today is always listen to your team, be it both from the frontline staff, but also the management team, making sure that, something that you think is going to hit well, actually kind of like, how does that land and what does that impact your team? I've worked with some companies where we have a question that we ask is like, how do you define your company culture at an SLT level? And then we talk to like a manager that's managing the front line, ask that same question. And there can always be that divide of like what the expectations are at the top versus the frontline staff. So I think that's kind of one of those things that I've been hearing, and both of you are successful at, is what really resonates well with the frontline? How do we get to them? Is it on their app? Is it, enabling Spanish translations in the site? Is it just, as simple as shouting out recognitions in, meetings and such like that? Maybe it's our platform that works well, maybe it's not, but at the end of the day, the program is what you're focusing on, which is awesome.
Exactly. And there's so many tools and different avenues you can take to reach that. Sean, you had mentioned earlier the QR codes and signage and things like that. Just constantly making sure you're kind of putting that information kind in front of everybody, both, and make sure it's translated appropriately for whichever group of people that you're trying to reach as well. But it's really cool because, again, I love the bucket list platform because you do have the virtual aspect. You can do a more kind of tangible training on it and things like that. But I also feel like that can go hand in hand. It doesn't necessarily just have to be bucket lists. You can get creative at your site however you want, but again, constantly asking for, checking in with your customers, your employees, constantly getting feedback. I love that question of asking how do you define the company culture, and then figuring out, okay, how can we use our engagement platform, our engagement ideas to bridge that gap and kind of get us to all feel the same culture. So I feel like it's just really about getting creative, having the passion for it, the time for it, and just, yeah, the energy and wanting that positive, uplifting culture. And then that it just starts trickling down. I've seen it happen with my own eyes, which has been really cool.
Love it. We're almost near a time, but I think Danielle had a great question about kind of like when an organization is going through a major leadership change. and making sure that, how do we develop and ensure that the current recognition program remains effective, aligns with new leadership values, and continues to motivate employees throughout the transition. Bernadette, like you kind of were going through a little bit of that before you joined us, but what was your learning of like any, and Lauren, definitely would love to hear any kind of thoughts on that. Have you gone through kind of like acquisitions, or like how does that impact you?
Yeah, so I know exactly that feeling. I know exactly what you're going through. If you're going through any sort of major change that your company may be going through, obviously, I think we all feel it. The organization, the culture just takes a hit. And I think number one, the most important thing is to respect the emotions that are happening with everybody. I found it best to kind of give everybody a little bit of time where, engagement isn't kind of the number one thing on your plate. You want to make sure that you're opening up your doors for communication if anybody needs to talk, anything like that, just making sure you're staying as that positive light or force or voice in your organization. But then really taking a step back, and there's nothing wrong with reworking your values, coming up with new, if it's like new core values you need to build, a new structure, new goals, anything like that, you can always take a step back and kind of rebuild that out and restructure it. But my advice to you is really give yourself grace, give your organization grace, and just know that you will get to that culture, to that next level that you were at once before, or that you're striving to get to. But you really do have to take it day by day, and again, just keep that positive attitude, be the voice of reason, give people a chance to kind of grieve, and it does all come together. There's nothing wrong with kind of restarting again, and there's actually something beautiful in it too. It's scary, but I've seen the light at the end too, and it's you'll get there. Just stay positive, and that's all. That's what I got.
Lauren, thoughts, ideas?
Well said, Bernadette. I think, I agree. Change is hard, and most companies go through some level of change at some point. And, as long as you're remaining authentic, I think that's kind of the important part. I always think of is making sure that we're keeping our values, and even if they're changing, right, they may change slightly, but just making sure that we are being authentic with the way that we are recognizing people, right? At the end of the day, change will take time. I think you want to stay positive. It's not always the case. There could be, low employee morale, but I think these are the times where it's really important for leaders, for employees. It doesn't have to be management, just to find the small wins again, right? Just finding, even though we're going through this huge change, things are crazy, we have this small little win. We just got a small contract signed, or, we just finished a small project that no one's going to see, but behind the scenes, it's important. I think those are the things we have to remember is just recognizing those small wins and keeping it positive. Recognition is all about being positive and lifting people up and really making them feel valued and that they are contributing, right? And that's what they want. They want to make sure that the work they're doing is being valued. So at the end of the day, keeping that in mind, I think, is important.
And I think with any like major changes, either it's, major leadership changes where a lot of people are getting new hierarchies of who they're reporting to, or even just like a pure acquisition of you're joining an organization and what does that culture look like. I think it also gives the opportunity to see what's been working, what isn't working, and have those kind of open conversations. From a frontline employee standpoint, you might want to know a little bit more about what's happening and focusing on that kind of like messaging and communication. That could be one aspect, but making sure that recognitions stay the same is really kind of thought about as well. Is how am I going to lead my team, and how do I show how I recognize people, and making sure that if I'm an SLT person, I'm going to be able to kind of like keep things the same way they are.